What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Josh Coker here, aka Josh Miss Prime. You know what it is. And I'm coming to you from Polymathics, the channel that helps you become a modern day Renaissance man. And today's message is brought to you in part by Story Ninjas. Stories that pack a punch. You can go ahead and check us out and see what we're all about at story-ninjas.com. That dash is very important. And today we're going to talk about why, if you're an aspiring author or an established author or somewhere in between, why you definitely want to get your books into an audio format if you haven't done that already. And before I get into this, I'm going to give everybody a little bit of background. First, I'm going to say why, and then I'll explain kind of a little bit of the how, so that I can get you guys on into the right mindset. Because now there are tools available that make it very easy and affordable, and there's also very little barriers to entry if you've already written a book. So with that being said, let's just, am I forgetting? Oh yeah, and before I forget, I always forget this, I don't plug enough. Go ahead and pound, smash, destroy the subscribe channel, whatever term you like to use, just do it so that you can get this material on an everyday basis. And of course, as I'm talking, if you like this episode, which you will, then go ahead and give it a like. And if you know anybody that will like this episode, share it with them. Okay, that's enough plugging for today. So let's get on with the topic. First of all, why is it important, if you're an aspiring author, a writer, maybe even just an entrepreneur, to get your materials, whether they're books or something else, into an audio format? And yeah, I'm sort of talking about podcasts too, but we're really focusing right now in today's episode on taking a book and putting it into audio format. And part of the reason we're doing this is because I've been convinced recently, and our whole company, we're putting all of our products, we've got roughly 62 right now, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on how you view it. We're trying to transfer them all over to audio. And we're also taking several of our videos from YouTube and transferring them over to podcast, because there is a shift in the wind, a change in the landscape. And for those of you who are keeping a pulse on technology and society and the way people are consuming content, you'll realize that a cycle is happening. And I'll give you an example. Before TV, radio was the dominant force for several years. It's what everybody listened to. They would bring it around. That's how news was transferred, and entertainment and all this other stuff. But then TV came around, and by TV I mean film. Like, they were called, I think they were, like, first they were silent videos, and then they were talkies, and then eventually became TV, where it's broadcast. And they were only, if you were lucky like me, you remember back when TVs, and when I say lucky, I mean lucky. You remember back when TV stations were like, I don't know, 6 or 8 main stations. And then it was crazy when there was a cable station, and then, you know, now there are so many channels and stations, like, you can't even, they're just thousands. And that's going to continue to perpetuate. And I'm not saying that TV or film are going anywhere. They might be morphing into things like Netflix, but that's definitely here to stay. That's a medium that will not go away. However, audio is now coming back into the forefront because of advances in technology and the affordability. And right now, for people who are just entrepreneurs in general, not even booksellers or authors or writers, this is a gold rush time to get your stuff into audio. And the reason is because, comparatively speaking, there is very little content out there. So one of the key elements of entrepreneurship is, especially if you're new and you're kind of a startup, is to go to places that your competitors won't go. And so, for example, and I promise all this is going to tie in, but like a decade ago when social media wasn't really a thing, none of the big corporations created Twitter accounts, created Facebook accounts, created Instagram accounts. That was just a thing that, you know, somewhat young entrepreneurs were doing, or tech savvy entrepreneurs who may have been in the game for a while, but they could see the tides changing. Now everybody has them, even big corporations like Coca-Cola, Oreo. I mean, I'm just naming weird ones that are coming off the top of my head, but like all of them are there now. But during that rush, when the big corporations weren't willing to go there, or they didn't think it was a thing, so they didn't want to spend money or research on it, a lot of entrepreneurs were able to develop their brands and become bigger and build their businesses because they were some of the first people into the arena, and so they were able to take market share. Okay, as a writer or a publisher or anybody or an entrepreneur, this is the way you have to think when these technologies come out. Currently, a similar thing is happening with audio. And so, for example, podcasts have been around for a while, but they're just now becoming a thing. If you look at it, I think podcasts have been around even since maybe like the 1990s, like the AOL time frame, but definitely early 2000s. And while some people have huge followerships, you could still, in this day and age, create a big followership, because the problem is, even though podcasts existed, it was really only technically savvy people, the younger generation, so to speak, that adopted that kind of mentality of listening to things on their phones or on their devices, on their computers. And it's only now becoming a thing. And part of it, again, is like society has changed. The way that humans do business has changed. We have things like Alexa now, and smartphones that connect to iTunes and Twitcher and Stitcher and I don't know, Anchor, the one that I use. All of these things that allow people to communicate and create content. And that's another thing too. It was not as easy to make podcasts or audio, and I promise all this will tie into books, in the past. It just wasn't easy. There weren't apps out there. There wasn't an infrastructure set up, but now there is. And that, my friends, is a golden opportunity for those of us who are willing to take the time, effort, and a little bit of the risk, tiny, tiny risk, to do this, to check this out. And really where the risk is involved is, it's your time. It's very little money or an investment to get your book or other content into an audio type of format, but you have to be willing to take some time out of your day and do things that you haven't done before and learn things that you haven't learned before in order to enter into that realm. And so hopefully that makes sense. Some other people explain it way better than I do. I think if you guys follow Gary Vee, that's a pretty good, he's a great influencer of all kinds of things, but he explains it pretty well as to like why the paradigm is shifting. He's kind of in the forefront of that. If you're more into books and publishing, maybe you've heard of the Mickelson twins. I watch them on occasion, and they have some really great advice when it comes to creating Audible books from ACX, which is essentially Amazon's publishing platform for Audible books. So let's talk about that. How do you create a book if you are a publisher, if you're a writer, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to write a book, and how do you get it on Audible? Because right now, like I said, the reason is because places like Audible and all of its contemporary platforms, because Amazon isn't the only one in this game. There are others, but Amazon is the one that's crushing it right now. And unless somebody comes along and creates something different, an Audible-like platform that allows people to make their books and have that big of a customer base, Amazon's probably going to dominate for the next little bit. But that's like a side point. So my belief, and you know, if it was Walmart, I would have gone with Walmart. Like, whoever has the best platform to do it with, that's who I'm going to use it with. I do my videos on YouTube because I feel like they have the easiest, most effective platform to create videos. I do my podcast on Anchor for the same exact reason. If Amazon had the best... My daughter is getting a phone call. It's funny. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb, but don't turn my daughter's phone on Do Not Disturb. I can't stand. Ugh. Okay, so my daughter gets more phone calls than I do, which is also frustrating. Okay, so back to the point. It doesn't matter what the platform is. I'm not like, I mean, I love Amazon as a consumer and as a creator, but if some other place had a better platform, I would go there. Okay, but the logistics are almost the same, so we're just gonna go with Amazon because theirs, I think, it's the most easy and it's the biggest bang for your buck. And this is pretty much how it works. I'm not gonna talk too much into how to create your book, but Amazon has a platform where you can create a digital book and a print book, and they can be linked together, and you can create multiple editions and various other things. So for entrepreneurs, for aspiring writers, for people who want to publish independently because you don't want to go through the traditional route, which can be a pain, and I've done videos and podcasts on that before, then it's an option and an alternative for you to either help bolster your business, bolster your sales, create leads, create a authority in your field, or like even as an aspiring author. If you have never written a book before, it allows you to test the market, and it also allows you to build your brand, and also just your book series brands. Because say you like if you're like me, the two things that I like to write in are science fiction and fantasy. So for me, I can continue to build my brands, my series brands, by doing that without having to go through traditional publishing and stuff like that. And in some cases, not in all, this is people who like really follow the steps, really are, you know, they're good at their craft and they take this seriously. They look at it like a business. There is money to be made, and in some cases, an author, especially starting out, can make more money than going the traditional route. If they go the and actually more money than you would had you gone the traditional route. But even over the course of their career, it's likely that you could make more money than what you would have if you had gotten a traditional deal. That's again a story for another day. But Amazon, it really is a trifecta. And the one thing is that while there's still plenty of room for people to get into Kindle publishing and paperback publishing to self-publish their book, there are several areas that are oversaturated. And I'll just give you an example. I was looking on there, and I know for a fact that there are at least 6 million books on Amazon, because I saw a book that was ranked at over 6 million. So does that mean that you're competing against 6 million books when you publish? No. It depends on the genre. It depends on like the subgenre that you're working, the keywords you're looking at. But generally speaking, the people who are selling at about 500,000 or below, they're making some money, and those who are selling at a rank of 100,000 and below, they're doing pretty well. They're getting sales probably every day. That's pretty good. But again, it's a little bit more difficult because many people have got into the gold rush days of that during like 2013, 2014, 2015, and they made a lot of money doing that. And now, if you haven't already been established, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. It's still possible, but you have to be even more strategic. You have to provide even more value to the customers on Amazon. Lots of things. How does Audible play into this? Well, what's the big deal with that? Like I said before, society is shifting, and Amazon has already seen this shift, and so they're trying to get as much as they can content onto their platform so that they have customers buying audiobooks from their platform. And so if you take a look at Audible, and it may not be the same like right this second, but a few months ago, there was not even 1 million books on Audible. And again, this is where I wish my memory was a little better, and I'm not gonna look it up right now, but I think the number I saw was 93,000-ish books. It might have actually been 930,000 books. But whatever the number was, it's still significantly lower in terms of saturation than the amount of books that are on Amazon, or that are on Kindle, that are in print and digital. So just that alone gives you better odds of ranking higher and having your book do well. The other thing is, because there's a much higher barrier to entry into Audible, because you already have to have a book and it already has to be in either digital or print, it makes it that much more difficult for your competitors. Now I know what you're saying, but Josh, didn't you say it's like easy to do this, and why are you telling me it's difficult? Well, I'm saying it's difficult for your competitors, but especially if you're someone that's already written a book, then you're already halfway there. And unlike in the past, where it was hard to find good narrators and it was expensive to have your books done, Audible gives you a very easy platform. Sorry, I gotta get this thing from a very easy platform so that you can find a narrator and you can get your book narrated for free if you want. Now, that may not be the recommendation that I would give to every author because of owning pardon me, I gotta put this thing on here. Because of owning the rights to your audio book. That's very important. But if you're someone who's strapped on a budget and you just really want to have your book out on Audible, and we're not going to go into advanced tactics or anything like this. We're just going to keep it simple. You can do it for free. You can do it for free. You can get it done in about 2 months. And if you're someone who's never written a book, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you want to write a book about your company or whatever, your idea, your process, your products. I mean, there's a million ways you can slice and dice this, your methodology. Then now would be the time, and I would look at it from the strategy of using Audible as the primary platform to get your customers, and looking at your print book and your digital book as a secondary platform or lead magnet, if you will. And there's several reasons. I'm gonna try to explain this all today in the next 10 or 15 minutes that I have. But essentially, like I said, more people are listening to Audible in their cars, in their homes, on a walk. I mean, just think about it. If you live in today's society and you have a smartphone, you're probably already doing these things. You're either listening to podcasts or Audible, or maybe you're listening to YouTube. But that's where people are when they're on their devices and they're not sitting at home watching TV. 9 times out of 10, they're riding in their car or they're doing something. And the benefit of audio over TV and even some video is that with podcasts and stuff, you can do other stuff. It's a more of a passive thing. Whereas watching a video, you're a little bit more active because your eyes have to be on the screen. So to kind of see the context of everything that's going on. So again, I'm not trying to convince you, like, I think the proof is out there, like you can just see it. If you don't believe me, whatever, this video is probably not for you. But for those of you that kind of get it, if you get it, you get it. People are on Audible, and the problem is there's not enough content on Audible right now to fulfill their needs, wants, and desires when it comes to products that they want to see. So I'll give you an example. If you look up the keyword keto diet or ketogenic diet, which is a very hot term right now in today's society, and it has been for the last little bit. If you look it up in print, in digital, you're going to see that there's 4,000 results for that term. So it's pretty saturated. There are a lot of books out there already that deal with that topic. So the likelihood of you being able to outbeat that competition for market share or for ears is, or eyes, I guess, in that sense, like it would be very difficult. But if you go into Audible and you look for the same search, what you're going to find is there's like, I don't know, it might be around 100. It's been a while since I did that search, but the point is, like, 4,000 compared to 100, there's a huge disparity between those numbers. So it gives anybody who were to write in that topic a leg up, an opportunity to enter in from a different vector that their competitors are not coming from. And again, the same thing holds true for fiction. And when I looked at fiction, there are thousands of fiction books on Audible, but if you look at bundles, and again, bundling is a whole nother thing where you put several of your books together in one bundle. I mean, the numbers I saw were insane. There are not many out there, and people are buying bundles in Audible like crazy. And for those of you who don't have Audible, or maybe you don't understand, it's a subscription service. And so for $15 a month or something like that, it's 10 or 15. I actually have one, but I don't remember. And I love it too, but this is how they get you. Like, you kind of forget that, like, what you're even signing up for. For like $15 a month, you get 2 or 3 credits that you can use towards buying a book. And this is an audio book. And so this is great because some audiobooks and audio bundles cost upwards of like $30. But if you have a credit, it didn't cost you anything. So that alone, you're getting, like, customers are getting massive value out of that because they can spend $15 a month and they can buy up to, say, 2 or 3 bundles that were $30 each, and they can get them for $50. So that's a $90 value. Let's say they bought 3 bundles, or let me be very conservative. Let's say they only have 2 credits and they bought 2 bundles that were both worth $60 in audiobooks, but they only paid $15 to be a member and subscribe. Do you see, like, they just got a $45 discount by being a member? That's huge, and people are doing this all the time. Yeah, I know I've done it. Like I'm looking for books that I want to read in a certain topic, and then I see an audio bundle and it's like there's 40 hours worth of, let's say, a fiction novel or fiction novels because it's a series, and it regular would have cost me $30. Yeah, I'm gonna use my credit to get that rather than the book that is 1 hour and it's only one single book on the topic. Like, it just doesn't, and it would have cost me $5 to buy. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to use my credit on that when I can get the bundle. And again, there's some more advanced tactics we can talk about, but I think some of you, if you're savvy entrepreneurs, you're kind of seeing where this is leading. And like I said, people who are on Audible and people who are on Kindle, honestly, they're ravenous listeners or readers, depending on how you look at it. And whatever topics they like to listen to, they get a couple every month. So, for example, there are a lot of people who listen to self-help or business while they're driving in their cars, and those people every month are looking on their thing and saying, what books am I going to use for these credits? And to be honest, in some niches, there aren't enough books to fulfill their need, and especially like super generic niches, and that goes into a whole, like, those are advanced strategies. Those are things that where if you wanted to come and create a book, if you wanted to create a book and you didn't know what to do, you could come to Story Ninjas and we could deploy strategies to find the proper keywords and niches that would work with your industry, whatever. Like, say we're talking nonfiction and you own a business, we would help you come up with those strategies. And again, they would be geared towards Audible, so that when we release that audiobook, you're gonna get like a ton of people reading it, because it's gonna be one of the only pieces of content out there that have the information that the people want. And we're gonna develop it in such a way where you'll have content that provides lots of value to the customer, and it's almost going to be a no-brainer for them to buy. But so customers are doing this. They're using their credits on things like this, and this is a gateway for entrepreneurs, business people, writers, and this applies to fiction as well. Especially if you have a series, if you have series fiction and you haven't published on Audible, like, what are you thinking? Are you living under a rock? You gotta do it, because it's gonna introduce you to a whole new subset of readers. And I'll give you an example. I'm actually one of them. I read books from time to time, but because my life is so busy, I usually get audiobooks now. Almost 90% of the books that I read are audio. There are some people who are the complete opposite, and they're the ones that Kindle and paperback books were geared for. But like I said, that market, it's not necessarily saturated, but it's been tapped. If you're thinking of a gold mine, you have to go much further, much deeper into the gold mine now to get out gold from that mine than you would from Audible, which is like you walk in the door and it's like just huge rocks of gold everywhere that you can just tap and it'll come down and you get it. So now the question is, okay, Josh, you've convinced me. Like, I understand, like, this is what people are, they're buying and whatever. Like, how do I get this done? It's super simple, okay? Like I said before, Amazon has a publishing platform called ACX. I don't really remember what it stands for. Doesn't really matter. It's called ACX. If you type in your web browser, Amazon and ACX, you will find the link to the site. If you've already published on Amazon, it makes it even easier, because you basically can log in with your Amazon credentials. And actually, I think if you have an Amazon account, you can just log in with your Amazon credentials. But after that, you're going to be walked through a series of very simple steps of like creating your account. It's as easy as setting up, like it's easier than setting up a Facebook account. They are going to ask for some tax information. You don't have to fill that out right away, but once you're ready to get a narrator, you will have to. For people who are listening to this and you're like, yeah, but I don't even have my book published as a digital or paperback. Stop for a second. You wanna go through that process first, but the Audible portion of this is important, because if you're not gearing your book towards the Audible audience, then you're gonna leave some money on the table, because you're gonna create your digital book and your paperback book geared towards that audience rather than the one where I think would be your primary audience. So just keep that in mind. You do need to go through the paperback or digital process. And again, companies like Story Ninjas can help you do that. But there's a lot of small printing presses out there that will help you. There are a lot of free courses and paid courses online that will teach you how to do that. But again, it's like, you know, time is the most precious commodity that we have. So this is something I tell all my clients, like, are any of these items that we're discussing things that you can't do? No. If you know how to turn on your phone and listen or watch this episode, then you're smart enough to write your own book, to publish your own book. Maybe not write it, but publish it. The real question is, do you have the time? Do you have the energy, the tenacity? Do you want to learn a whole nother business model in order to do this? That's the question you have to ask yourself. But so to get back on topic, you're gonna gear all of your books towards this Audible. It's like a pyramid. And the reason is because Audible is gonna bring customers to your print books and your digital books. It may not be a boatload, but if you do it right, they kind of cross promote. And so, for example, the most simple example I can give you is, if you have one book that you publish digitally, which is probably the easiest way to publish, you can, within a day, maybe even within an hour, if you've really learned the process, publish a paperback book. And now you have two products based off of one project that you did. And then if you take another day or two to set up the the Audible ACX account and find a narrator, select a narrator, and go through that process, you can now have 3 products. So you've just multiplied your opportunities. And like I said, that third product, the Audible product, is really where you can find a whole new market and customer base that that your other books didn't find. And it's really simple. So let's say we're gonna, for the sake of argument, we're gonna say you already published on the other side. If not, you need to go back to other videos that I've done, other episodes that I've done, and look those up and see how to do it. You can reach out to us. But the thing is that once you've done that, you go onto ACX, you fill out the account information, and then you can simply request auditions for a narrator. And then when you do, you listen to them, and it's gonna be pretty easy to identify who's a good narrator. Those who know what they're doing, the quality it's gonna be very easy to identify. There won't be any echoes in the room. It'll sound nice and clear and crisp. They won't fumble over their words. They'll have taken time to kind of understand the characters. They'll be able to do multiple character voices if you're doing fiction. And if they're doing nonfiction, they should be able to speak to your topic with a type of authority. So if that is, once you find that person, then all you have to do is hire them, and you have two main options. You can create a contract with them where you split the royalty shares. So what that means is they will do your audiobook completely for free, and then all you have to do is whenever you get royalties, you're splitting it with them and Amazon. But that's a very, very low risk for a very, very high possibility of reward, because while you may have to share your royalties for the audiobook, if that audiobook gets them involved with your paperback digital books or other series, or just you as an author or your company, then it was worth the $5 or $10 of a royalty that you shared with the narrator. Because the narrator, in this sense, they're doing a lot of the work in order to get that Audible book up. Now, you did a lot of the work by creating the story or the book, but when it comes to Audible, they're really doing the heavy lifting. The other option is that you can pay them per hour. And I know that sounds intimidating, because for me, it's just intimidating to think how much will it cost for a narrator to narrate my book. And in the past, especially with professionals and things like that, it could cost thousands of dollars, $5,000, $10,000. That's a lot of money to invest into a book when you're starting out and you're not sure how it will do. But nowadays you can get it done for free, like I said before, or because Amazon has this pool of authors and they're allowing new people to come on the scene, just like they're allowing new authors to come on the scene, the narrators are charging great fees, because their hope is that they're just like an aspiring author. These narrators are trying to make a living off of doing these jobs. So you can get a pay per hour as low as, well, let's say the highest that we would pay here at Story Ninjas is about $50 per finished hour. So what that means is, if you had your book done and the audio that the narrator gives back to you is 3 hours long, 3 times 50 at the most, that's $150 that you spent. So $150, yes. Is there some risk in that? Is there a little bit of a sacrifice? Yes. But in terms of no other time in history have you been able to find a very quality narrator and get your entire book narrated to a huge audience for that cheap. I mean, it's just insane. And anybody who has a book or is planning on writing a book, if you're not taking advantage of this, you should. The benefit of paying a narrator is, one, you might get more access to narrators who are just even a little bit higher quality. And two is that you will then own the audio rights, which means that if you want to, forever and always, you will own those rights. You will be signing a contract with Amazon. That means that for 7 years, you're gonna only sell your book, your audiobook, on Amazon in audio format with that narrator. However, you'll be able later to take that to other places. Hold on one second, Grace. My daughter's over here. She wants to tell me something. I just want to finish this video. The other thing, so because you have the audio, because you own those rights, that will allow you to make bundles out of the audio that you wouldn't be able to do if you had different narrators. So say you got one narrator for one book and one narrator for another book, you would not be able to create a bundle off of that because both narrators own rights to that. However, if you buy the books, if you buy the audio rights, then you can do whatever you want. It's yours. And for everybody's going to have their own situation, their own way of looking at it. But like I said, the bottom line is, there has been no time in history that writers could have such easy access to such great technology. And this won't last forever. At some point, it will become just like Kindle. It'll become just like publishing on demand, where Audible too will become saturated with all of the different topics that people are searching on. And then it's not like you won't be able to make money on Audible anymore, but it'll be much more difficult. So if you're out there and you want to do something like that, like, now is the time. And again, I'm just going to put in a plug. If you don't want to learn this whole system, if you don't want to figure it out, and you just want somebody who knows what they're doing to kind of help you, we charge a very minimal fee, especially if you're going to get your book done with us, if you're going to get your book published with us, to get your book onto Audible. So with that being said, I'm gonna close up shop here. Hopefully this has been helpful, give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on. In later episodes, we'll discuss strategies of
hats,
of how to keep your daughters from being punks. But we'll discuss other strategies and tactics that you can use to deploy for your books to get the biggest bang out of your book, and particularly your audiobooks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, this has been Josh Coker, aka Joshmas Prime, on behalf of Polymathics, the YouTube channel, the channel that helps you become a modern day Renaissance man, and Story Ninjas. Stories that pack a punch. You can check us out at www.story-ninjas.com. And until next time, keep writing the good right and take it easy.